Sports.
We are back, and we are joined by the one and only Cam Stuart. Cam, I'll tell you, when we started on this relationship, this joint venture, where a lot of times I'm able to welcome you as a guest on my show and vice versa, I think you got to tap into resources like we have in each other. And
sure,
but I figured there's a ceiling on this Stuart guy. You know, like really, like what can he really bring? There's only so much.
And what you found out
there's
the ceiling is the roof, as Michael Jordan said.
The ceiling,
which makes a ton of sense.
No, because here's the thing: I knew I was going to get a special guy and a special guest, and somebody who knew a lot about sports. But I didn't know that I was going to get somebody who was doing the basically blow by blow for a piping hot Baylor football team. I don't think we saw this coming, Cam.
I did not think I'd be going blow for blow with a piping hot Baylor football team this season either.
Okay,
but here we are.
So
6-4.
6-4. And
after 2-4. I think that's important context.
Look, would you look straight ahead?
Oh, I like looking at you, Pete.
Right,
I'm looking at you on the screen too.
All right. That's why we do it.
Yeah, Scotty's got us.
Scotty does have it. All right. So what were your thoughts about the game? And about, I want to start off negative. I don't do this because I always start positive. And we're going to start off with this piece of sound. This is Dave Aranda today commenting on a question about his defense and his defense's performance.
Not be discouraged and to continue to fight for that inch and to believe that you're going to get it. And all of that is the most important thing. Because it ain't going to be like this. It's going to be like this. You know, I think probably the game on Saturday is a good example of that. You know, I wish that it would be way prettier than what it is, but you know, it's you got a new baby. It's an ugly baby. Gotta love it nonetheless.
Okay. Here's my question to you, Pete. What do Dave Aranda?
Hold on, let me say it. Dave Aranda addressed his defense. This is from Parker Rem, by the way. Thank you, Parker.
I believe it's Reem. Yeah,
Reem. Sorry, he does a great job covering Baylor, regardless of how you say his last name. He said a win is a win. Dave Aranda addressed his defense, which gave up 28 plus points for the 7th straight game, despite the Bears finding ways to win. Okay, Cameron.
What do Dave Aranda and Silvio Dante have in common?
Every time I'm out, they pull me back in.
They are now both known for their Pacino impressions. Because that's what that was. That we got to fight and claw for that inch. We do whatever we can to get that inch.
Which, by the way, is one of the best coach speeches in all of Hollywood history.
Yeah, that movie just leaves a lot to be desired.
What's the name? Tony D'Amato?
It's something like that. Yeah. It's just not a great film.
Oh, no. You're wrong about that.
I know. That's every movie.
Any given Sunday. That's a good movie, dude.
Anyway, to go back to what he was talking about, I'm glad Parker pointed that out because it's not been good defense.
Yeah.
And I would also look. I'll say this. So the big news after the game is that Dave Aranda has been retained as head coach for 2025. Which I think is kind of funny now that teams are like, yeah, we're actually not going to fire the guy. They did this with Billy Napier a few weeks ago at Florida. It's like, okay, all right. I guess you didn't really need to announce as long as he's here, he's not getting fired. Right. Like, you know, but I thought it was interesting because it's coming off the back of this 7 straight weeks where they've given up at least 4 touchdowns and he is the defensive coordinator, defensive play caller. That's his thing. And the fact that I thought there were some questionable head coaching decisions in this game. Baylor's up 14 with just under, I think it's 3 minutes left in the first half. And they decide to go surprise onside kick, which you can't do in the NFL anymore.
Yeah.
Dave Aranda goes with it. And Twitter is losing its mind because it doesn't make it better that West Virginia then goes down and scores.
Yeah.
Okay. At the time, I don't hate the call. I actually kind of like the call because, and I don't even think it's necessarily like, oh, my defense is never going to get a stop. But I think there's some of that in there where he's like, you know what? They cannot stop us. And we've got our foot on the gas right now. We're up 14, not up 7. Okay. We're up 14. We're getting the ball coming out of the second half. You know what? Let's step on their throat a little bit. This is what we've been preaching, having this killer instinct and having this finish instinct. The last couple of years, hasn't come together. Let's really prove something here. I kind of like that. It's not a 7-point game, so I'm okay with that. But then West Virginia goes right down and scores. Baylor scores again. And then Baylor cannot stop them in 45 seconds that West Virginia has the ball before the half. Or maybe they did, and there's no camera angle to say that they stopped them. But that's neither here nor there. So a lot of people are like, you just gave momentum right back to them, okay? And then what I thought was an even worse call is in the second half, they're up 7, and they have a 4th and 12 at the West Virginia 37-yard line.
Yeah.
4th and 12 is not easy. Don't get me wrong. But the alternative is a 55-yard field goal or punting. At that point, I'm like, man, Sawyer Robertson was unbelievable in the first half. He starts 12 of 12 for 196 and 2 touchdowns in his first 3 drives. I'd rather keep him on the field and roll with those guys, with him and Bryson Washington and Josh Cameron, roll with those guys rather than going for a 55-yard field goal because they were always going to miss that, and he missed it. That's not even shade on Isaiah Hankins. That's a 55-yard field goal. That is not a chip shot.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, that to me was an even worse call. But credit where credit's due. We said, a lot of us, a lot of the pundits, including myself, said if Baylor gets to bowl eligibility after winning 3 games last year, that could be enough to save Dave's job. And they've gotten to bowl eligibility with 2 games to spare. So that's the negatives I took from this game. A lot more positives than negatives that I took from, despite what that sounded like. A lot more positives than negatives.
So I was listening to your Locked On Baylor performance after the game, which was great.
Performance. Thank you. It does feel like a performance.
Oh, dude, you're a bit of a performer when it comes to that, which is great. You're kind of like,
I love the live post games.
You're kind of like this guy. You're a little like Howard Stern. If you meet Howard,
yeah,
he's like,
we had a lot of strippers on this week.
No.
On the post
if
game.
you meet Howard, he's very quiet, very polite, very keeps to himself. But then on the radio, he's a little different.
I think that's most performers on the radio. But
right, hold on.
Go ahead. Yeah, we don't want to get into that.
So you mentioned, first of all, we did text a little bit. Is it too soon to say that Sawyer Robertson is a Heisman candidate for next year?
No, it's not.
No, it's not. Okay, so that's something just to get excited about. And then you talk about Bryson Washington and Josh Cameron both coming back. Here was a concern of mine because I think, again, this is the guy who got sober and I'm still always I take every job that's given to me because I'm constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, boy, I hope this isn't the pinnacle of the Dave Aranda comeback, right? The one at West Virginia where we're so excited about the future. You have these 3 guys coming back, and then the wheels come off again.
There's a cautionary tale to give you an exact example for this. There's a cautionary tale in the Big 12 right now, and it's the Arizona Wildcats. But them too.
Yeah.
Them too, but Arizona, excuse me, they finally get a good season last year for the first time in forever, it felt like. They won 10 games. Jed Fish leaves, but they've got Fafita and McMillan coming back, and the bottom's falling out of that thing. So
my gosh,
there's a cautionary tale there.
Yeah, I mean, it really is falling out. Maybe Brett Brennan sucks or, who knows. But I agree. Those 2 players, they'll
really
still
rock a lay, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, he looks good. So, but maybe, can he wear that?
It's still weird. June Jones did it, but he was at Hawaii.
And he didn't lose.
Yeah.
That's,
and it feels weird, white guy, Arizona. I don't know. I don't know the back.
Do you have HBO, Cam?
Yes.
There's a documentary now, Breath of Fire, which I watched the first 2 episodes last night. It's about this woman. It's really good. It's about this woman.
Thought it was going to be about the Hawaii football team. I was like, I'm in.
Oh my God. Could you imagine?
Go ahead.
It's about this white chick who
so great. I'll make that documentary.
Pedals yoga, and she's wearing a turban the whole time. It's right away. You're like, I don't know if I can get and then I said, listen to what I said, Cam. This will get me in trouble. So I'm watching it with Christy, and everybody they're talking about, it's all, I'm like, you don't see any guys getting wrapped up in this, do you? Because it's all
Worth noting.
How
Worth
well
noting.
do you think that went over?
Probably not
It was
great.
like I got suplexed.
Dude, I drop that,
that was
shit.
it.
I drop that on Grace sometimes where like we'll be like I'll get cut off, like and she's in the passenger seat. I'll be like, must be a woman. Or like and she'll take it so seriously. Like she's known me for 4 years, knows I don't think like that.
Yes, I know.
But still she'll be like, why would you even say it?
We had one where
It was like because it's funny.
I'll tell you this. Let's not get too far off with this.
Okay.
But
Cut this out of the middle of the Baylor football segment.
I just got a text that said, no, they're actually cult leaders. These are the guys.
That's true. That's true. She's got a point there.
There was another one where I got owned. We were
and they tend to be serial killers.
We were signing up for I had to, because I'm a gracious guy, I had to install. That's by the way, that's about the length that I go to handyman wise. I was putting the HBO Max or the Max on the TV at her place.
Installing it. Yeah. Okay.
So, but there's an option when you go through it, and it says man, woman, non-binary, prefer not to say.
For HBO Max?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I don't think you need to know a gender.
So I was like, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it. And I was like, what kind of world are we living in? and then it was like I got hammered, like this one was a pile driver. It was like, no, actually, if someone gives their gender, then they get certain types of ads from. I was like, all right.
Okay, I guess.
But anyways, this is a good documentary. I would recommend it. But back to the issue at hand. We're talking about
back to the issue at hand. Why does HBO need that?
We're talking about Baylor football.
Yeah,
and it's a really exciting time. And I want to ask you, how are we prisoners of the moment now with this optimism, or is this very real optimism? And I'll jump in with one point. Watching Sawyer Robertson just drop back to pass. There is, as someone who pulls for Baylor, I don't hide that. I get like a natural like juice. I'm like, this feels right. This feels good. Like this guy's cool, calm, collective. He's in control. He's decisive. It's even to that point where I'm drunk with hope that like when he escapes the pocket, I'm like, he'll know not to get himself in a position where he'll get hammered. There's
a play. It's the first touchdown of the game for Baylor that I saw, and I was just like, this is such a good feeling because Sawyer Robertson, all we've been told, right, gunslinger, right, and got a big arm, and he can fit it through some needles. And when I hear that, I think, okay, Brett Favre, right, like he's going to get you into some trouble. But he'll make some big plays, this, that, and the other. And you kind of just mentioned it there. When he gets out of the pocket, he's going to be responsible with it. And he's a gunslinger who really takes care of the ball. And last year he had some bad picks. And I don't know how much of that was the offense or him thinking he could do too much. But on this first touchdown, Bryson Washington's running a wheel. And it's actually a wheel like in the seam, one of those, you know what I mean? Uh-huh. Boy, I sound like a football guy.
Yeah, but it's great.
Anyway, he's looking at it the whole time, which is never great for a quarterback, right? He's like staring it down. And the announcer even says in the middle of the play, Mike Monaco is like, he's looking for that seam.
Who's amazing, by the way. Mike Monaco, also a Wareham Gateman play-by-play guy. That's right. What we have in common. Yeah.
And I'm like, it's not there. Like, it's really well covered. But there's no safety help, so maybe Sawyer tries it, and he does. And he doesn't even loft it. It's kind of a fastball with some touch. And Bryson Washington is there. Like, he catches it for a touchdown. And he's not open. He's a running back. He doesn't go out for many passes. He's an okay pass catcher for sure. And he doesn't see it for the last second. But Sawyer fits it in there, and Bryson Washington catches it when everyone in the stadium knows what he's looking for because he's doing it the whole time. And I'm like, that's sickening in a good way, right? Like that is, how is this kid not going to feel too hot? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he was just money. He hits 12 his first 12 on the first 3 drives, and they scored 3 touchdowns. This is back to, in a lot of ways, it doesn't have as big a score line, But in a lot of ways, they are playing like those Bryles teams did. They are winning because their offense puts a ton of pressure on you, and they could do it a couple of different ways. I was talking with you on your show last week about how this is the first time in the win streak that they've actually played a team that is really pretty good against the run.
And they were still moving the line of scrimmage 10 yards down the field.
They won the trenches big time in this game and they did kind of well against a pretty good, like a really good offensive line for West Virginia. But yeah, they were moving it, man. They were balanced. And I'm like, this shows that this was not like a fluke against Tech because their run.
Who are you more
sucks.
excited about? We'll stick to the skill positions because it's sexy. Bryson Washington or Sawyer Robertson.
Golly, you gonna make me pick one?
Yeah.
I'm really excited for both, but I would give an edge to Sawyer just because I give an edge to quarterback position because it means so much in football these days. And like quarterbacks more often than not can win games for you more often than running backs can.
You'll enjoy this.
But 8 touchdowns in 2 weeks for Bryson Washington, man.
You'll enjoy this because I just that's amazing. 8 touchdowns in 2 weeks.
That's incredible.
Wow. And the kid, Jordan Tyson.
This makes me feel great as an analyst, quote unquote analyst.
Yeah.
Because I did watch Bryson play quite a bit in high school at Franklin.
Yeah.
And I because I knew he was going
like
to Baylor.
An hour down the road in Waco, the Franklin Tornado. Maybe that could be his nickname.
Sure. And I was like, this kid is like physically ready to play college football. Like he was massive. They ran a slot tee. They still do. So they never pass it. And it's kind of archaic, but I'm like, he won 2 state championships. They're pretty good. And I'm like, this kid's ready. And I love the way he runs. And we need an Abram Smith. And he has become that.
So when I get all the big games, and when Baylor played Long Island 2 years ago, I was on that game. And
last year, 23.
Last year, yeah. So And things were already bad for Baylor. They'd lost to Texas State. They lost to somebody else early in the year. Utah. It was like, okay.
That was it. They were 0-2.
They were 0-2. They were 0-2, that's all?
Yeah, and that's all. And then they won that game and got crushed by UT the week after.
Yeah, and you know what it was, too? That win against Long Island was
not convincing.
No, it was really bad. So anyways, but Aranda comes in. First of all, Jeff Grime comes in, the offensive coordinator at the time, and he's talking to us in a production meeting. And he makes a point to talk about this guy, the true freshman, like Bryson Washington. Like, you're going to want to keep an eye on him. And now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if it was Grimes or Aranda, but they both talked about this guy, you got to watch this guy.
And Aranda said it like this season too. Because again, he didn't play a lot last year, and then he comes in this year, he's a little banged up, and he kept mentioning it. He was like, well, Bryson's banged up, and we get him back. Like, that's
he was so excited about him. He called him, he's a wild horse. And like he said, when you give him the ball, he is like a wild horse.
He really is. He's a stallion.
Yeah.
An absolute stallion.
And we're seeing that now.
And you don't see much of that anymore, just across football.
All right, I'll let you go because we're coming up near the end here. When we're now we have 2 games left, and plus a bowl game. 8-4 is more than realistic, especially the way they're playing. It's not like you're like, oh, they got to find a way to win. Like I've watched BYU's offense late into the night the past 2 weeks. It's horseshit. Like in a sense where they move the ball a little bit, but I have no confidence in them just marching down the field and getting the job done. I don't. They've scored 35 points collectively in the last 2 weeks, right? That's not good for a team that's 6th in the country, not anymore. Mm-hmm. And I feel way better about Baylor's ability to move the ball, like way better.
I mean, this is maybe the best offense in the Big 12 right now. It's certainly the hottest.
Yeah, so I think last 2 games, what do you predict? What do you foresee? They got Houston. They should beat the brakes off Houston this week.
Yeah, we'll see. Here's where I get fatalistic here, Pete.
All right, let me check the number.
The 2 teams that they have left both have 6 losses. So they're backed up against it. They got something to play for. Houston on the road, and then Kansas at home, which Kansas is one of the hottest teams in America at 4-6.
I know.
Like, they're incredible. They just knocked off BYU.
I was even hoping that maybe some like playing Kansas last could almost help them. That maybe like guys would hold out, or I have no idea.
Be
you know what
already
I mean?
ready, booked their trip home.
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
So I still think they should be favored in both the games. Kansas, they play at home. That's going to be the tougher of the two. But I'll say I think they're going to go 8-4 heading into that bowl game.
Who said that to you like about 6 weeks ago? Do you remember?
I don't know, some guy in fantasy.
Do you remember,
man?
The only one who'll bring it up is
you.
Moses.
Really said they were going to win out.
Yep.
I remember you saying they were going to go to a
we'll
bowl
find
still.
it.
But
We'll find
I'm
it.
sure. I'm sure you did. You've been very positive, Pete.
No. I'm not positive. I'm right. And you know why I'm right?
I mean, it's okay to be positive,
no.
man.
But here's why I'm right. First of all,
He's like, how dare you?
No, because people are always like, oh, you're positive. It's like, no, I see.
So I just think you had a positive outlook on this team that I didn't have at the time because I had not seen them win one. Like if we had seen them win one big game, we'd be like, okay.
Here was my sneaking suspicion. Once Sawyer took over, it did really look like it was his team. And then another thing was I knew
getting the Brady comparisons now.
I know, and you knew, not many people knew about the trouble that some of the new guys had gotten into on the road. Yeah. And some of the guys who are very, very good, and they were held out, and these were weapons. And that was when the team sort of hit a low, right? And I was like, if these guys can come back and do it, well, honestly, watching the Big 12 like I have this year, I've noticed like there's just a lot of chinks in a lot of teams' armor. And I knew it was there for the taking, and I looked at the schedule too. I thought it was doable. So it's not done yet, by the way.
They could play in the Big 12 championship.
That's not going to happen. That's a scenario. If you started to read that scenario now, we could check in with you 24 hours from now, and you'd still be here reading it. So we're not going to bother.
Could happen. Pete.
But I do want to let's look at Baylor's number here, the spread, and then we'll let you go. Baylor is 8-point favorite. I didn't know that. 8 points on the road. All right, Cam Stewart, you are always favored. Catch him today with Matt Mosley. ESPN 1660. He'll be back tomorrow on the Cam Show, 11 a.m. Central Time here on Rogue Media. We are powered by Rogue Media, and we'll be right back.
It's the Pete Sousa Show.